This is the Sci-Fi Griot. I'm your host, Nicholas Cunningham. Episode 14, When There Is No Captain. Last time we talked about the ones who stay at their post, the people who keep futures running while others decide where they're headed. So today we're shifting the lens again because not every science fiction story has a captain. Not every future is shaped by command structures, rank, or authority. Some of the most revealing science fiction stories take place when no one is in charge. No grand speeches, no bridge, no hierarchy to hide behind, just people facing moments where choice is unavoidable and leadership is temporary. Today's episode is about those stories. Stories where the future turns, not on who's in command, but on who chooses to act when no one tells them to. Movies do sometimes, movies do something television often can't. They compress, they force decision into tight spaces, they remove escape routes, they don't allow long arch of delay. In movie based science fiction, you don't get years to adapt. You get hours, sometimes minutes. And because of that, films tend to ask sharper questions. Who steps forward when authority fails? What happens when no system arrives to save you? What does responsibility look like without a title? Movies don't give us captains, they give us moments. And moments reveal character faster than structures ever could. In the movie The Children of Men, the world hasn't collapsed completely. It still functions. There are governments, borders, bureaucracy, but hope is gone. No one has been born in 18 years. And what's striking about this future is not how chaotic it is, but how normalized despair has become. The character Theo is not a leader. He doesn't inspire crowds. He doesn't give grand speeches. He simply protects. He moves people from one place to another through systems that, though the system no longer care. What Children of Men teaches us is that sometimes leadership is simply refusal to let hope die quickly, refusal to let life become logistical. There's no captain here, only people choosing moment by moment to protect something that's fragile without knowing if it will survive. The movie Arrival is one of the most deceptively quiet science fiction films ever made. There are no wars fought on screen. There are no villains just arguing or involved. No heroics, last stands. And yet the stakes couldn't be higher. The character Louise Banks is not a commander. She doesn't control nation. She doesn't dictate outcomes. Her power is interpretation, understanding, patient. The future in the movie Arrival hinges on whether someone is willing to sit with uncertainty long enough to truly listen. And then comes the real question, not how to stop catastrophe, catastrophic, but whether to choose a future that includes pain. The movie Arrival asks something radical. If you knew the cost in advance, would you still choose the experience? This isn't leadership through command, it's leadership through acceptance. And science fiction rarely gives us that. In the movie Gattaca, the system works. That's the problem. There's no rebellion, no uprising, no villain overthrow, just a quiet hierarchy based on genetics. The character Vincent doesn't lead a movement, he doesn't dismantle the system. He simply refuses to let it define him. His resistance is personal, it's private, and almost invisible, and yet it's powerful. This movie shows us a form of courage that doesn't look like disruption. It looks like persistence. It even asks, what does resistance look like when systems are polite, efficient, and legal? Sometimes the bravest thing is refusing to internalize what the system says you are. In the movie Moon strips science fiction down to its bone. One man, one station, and one job. No captain, no crew, no witnesses. And yet the moral questions are enormous. Who are you when the system that created you never intended for you to matter? The character Sam isn't fighting an empire, he's fighting erasure. In the movie Moon reminds us that futures can be exploited without being violent, and that dignity doesn't require recognition to be real. Leadership here isn't about guiding others, it's about recognizing oneself as human even when no one else will. In the movie, Her is often described as gentle science fiction, but it's deeply unsettling because it imagines a future where emotional labor is outsourced. Connection is easy, intimacy is frictionless. The character Theodore doesn't have to lead anything, he just has to feel. What the movie Her asks is subtle but important. What happens when technology becomes better at listening than people? And what happens to us when relationships no longer require to be reciprocal? There is no certain, there is no captain in the movie Her, just individuals navigating a future where emotional responsibility is optional. That absent is the warning. These films share something essential. They don't ask who's in charge, they ask who is accountable when no one is. They focus on the following: protection instead of power, choice instead of destiny, dignity instead of dominance. These stories suggest that futures aren't saved by command structure alone. They're sustained by people who choose to care without guarantees. Movies focused on science fiction resonates because it removes institutional distance. There's no federation to trust, no Starfleet regulation to cite, just people. And that forces us to ask, what will we do without a system to hide behind? Who would we protect? What would we choose? What would we refuse to surrender? These films don't offer blueprints, they offer mirrors. So, what happened next when there is no captain? Science fiction suggests something hopeful, that leadership doesn't disappear, It decentralizes. It moves into hands, into choices, into moments where people decide who they are without permission. Here's a final reflection. If no one was in charge, what would responsibility look like for you? And who would you protect if no one told you to? This has been the Sci-Fi Griot, your host, Nicholas Cunningham, a place to slow down, to reflect, and to imagine futures where responsibility doesn't require a title.